Lesson 76 is finding polynomial roots, which, remember, roots are the same as finding the zeros of an equation, and that's the same as finding the solutions of the equation. So when we have an equation that's set up like this one, negative x times x plus 4 times x minus a half equals 0, what we need to do is we need to find the answers to each one of these x's here. So for this one, remember, we gotta have it set equal to 0 first, which this one is. And because this is all factored out, we can set each one of these factors equal to 0, and then solve for each one of these factors. So, let me get these written out. So this first one, we would divide by -1 to get x by itself, so x would equal 0. The next one, subtract the 4 over, x equals -4. And the last one, add the 1/2 over, so x equals 1/2. So our answers are 0, -4, and 1/2. All right, for the next one, we have f of x equals 6x cubed plus 21x squared plus 18x. First thing again, we have to have it set equal to 0. Well, for this one, remember that f of x is the same as y. So if we set y equal to 0, that is where it's going to cross the x-axis, which is exactly what we're looking for here. So we're going to plug a 0 in here for this f of x, and then we're going to try and factor this thing out. So the first thing I see is not only can we take an x out of here, but we can also take a 6 out of here. So we've got 0 equals 6x times x squared plus, oh, we can't take a 6 out of here because it doesn't come out of 21. So we can only take a 3x out. So we've got 2x squared plus 7x plus 6. So then we have to check and see if we can factor this, and I'm pretty sure we can here. So we've got our 3x on the outside, 2 sets of parentheses. We know 2x squared is a 2x and an x. This sign says that they're both the signs are going to be the same. This one tells us it's a plus. And then these last two are going to be what multiply together to give us 6, which is going to be either a 1 and a 6 or a 2 and a 3. And then when we FOIL these, we've got to get a 7 in the middle here. So it looks like I would have a 3 here and a 2 there. If we do our outers, we've got 4x, inners would be 3x, add those together, there's our 7x. So now we set each one of these factors equal to 0, and we're going to solve for x for each one of these. So the first one we divide by 3, so x equals 0. Next one, we subtract 3 and divide by 2. And the last one, we subtract 2. So our 3 answers here are x equals 0, x equals -3/2, and x equals -2. Next page. Find the real zeros of f of x equals x to the 4th minus 3x cubed plus 2x squared minus 6x. Alright, so find the real zeros, the solutions. So we want to set this equal to 0. So let's recopy this down with it set equal to 0. First thing I see is we can take an x out of each one of these terms, so let's go ahead and do that. So we've got x times x cubed minus 3x squared plus 2x minus 6. Alright, now what I think we can do is we can break this into 2 parts here. So what I see is we can do the first 2 and the last 2 here. So What can come out of these first two would be an x squared, and we'd be left over with x minus 3. The second one, what can we take out of this to get an x minus 3 left over? Looks like a positive 2. So then we would have an x minus 3 left over. So our factors here would be x squared plus 2 and x minus 3. But if you look, there's 2 x's, here's 1 x. We need 4 total x's. This x that we brought out way back here needs to come with it also. And then all of that is set equal to 0. So there's our factors. Now we set them equal to 0. So x equals 0, x squared plus 2 equals 0, and x minus 3 equals 0. For this first one, it's already solved. For the next one, we'd have x squared equals negative 2, and then we take the square root. Square root of a negative 2 would be an imaginary number. We want real solutions here. So this one would not work. This last one, we'd add the 3 over. There are our 2 answers here. We only have 2 because these 2 got taken out because they were imaginary. All right, the next one, find the real roots of 0 equals x minus 2 times x squared plus 2 minus x minus 2 times x, or 4x plus 7. Now if you look at this, this has already been factored into this setup right here, where we could combine this x minus 3 and this x minus 3 because they were the same into this one factor. The stuff that we took out was combined into the other one. Well, if we look down here, this x minus 2 and that x minus 2 is the same, so we can combine them into one. The other one is x squared plus 2 minus 4x plus 7. All right, and I put this 4x minus 7 in parentheses because this minus sign is in front of it. All right, now, this is already set equals 0. Okay, can we simplify down this right here? Well, for sure, we can put it in the right order. We've got a negative 4x here, and then we've got 2 minus 7, which gives us a minus 5. All right, those are set equals 0. This thing now can be factored into an x minus 5 and an x plus 1. All right, because when we FOIL, there's our positive 1, negative 5 gives us negative 4. So here's our 3 factors. Set all of those equal to 0. We set the first one equal to 0, we get x equals 2. And then this one, x minus 5, we add the 5 over, so x equals 5. And the last one, x plus 1, subtract the 1 over, x equals negative 1. So there's our 3 answers for that one. All right, next page. Kind of the same concept for this first one. 0 equals x plus 4 times 2x squared minus 7 plus x plus 4 times 5 minus 3x. Well, I see that these x plus 4's are the same, so we're going to take an x plus 4 out. The next one, we're just going to add those 2 together. So 2x squared minus 7 plus 5 minus 3x. Now I'm going to reorder that second one there. So we got 2x squared minus 3x. Negative 7 plus 5 looks like a negative 2. Right? Remember, these are all equal 0. Okay, so then we're going to come over here. 0 equals x plus 4. And I'm pretty sure we can factor the second one. So, 2 sets of parentheses. We've got a 2x and an x. We know signs are going to be different here. So I am gonna put a negative here and a positive here. We'll see if it works. And then 2 has to be a 1 and a 2. So I'm gonna put a 1 here and a 2 there. Here we get a negative 4 plus 1. There's our negative 3. So then, now that their set equals 0, x equals, subtract the 4 over, subtract the 1, divide by 2, and add the 2 over. There's our 3 answers. Alright, the next one, 0 equals x cubed plus 5x squared plus 4x plus 20. Alright, group of 4. Well, when you have a group of 4, one thing you can try is you can try the 2 groups of 2, and hopefully this will work here. Well, we can take out an x squared here with an x plus 5 left over. Take out a 4 out of this one, and we're left with that x plus 5. Perfect. These two are the same. And remember, that's what we need to be able to move on. So 0 equals, x plus 5 is one of them. The other one is x squared plus 4. Now we can set those equal to 0. So we know x equals negative 5 because we can subtract the 5 over. This one, we subtract the 4 over, so x squared equals negative 4. And then when we take the square root of a negative 4, we'd get imaginary numbers. Now for this one it says find the roots, okay? Still the same thing. Where does it cross the x-axis? So when it's imaginary, it's not going to cross the x-axis there. So we just have the one answer here. All right? Last one. Solve 2x to the 4th equals 8x cubed minus 8x squared, or minus x squared minus 13x. Approximate solutions to 2 decimal places. All right, this one's a little bit more complicated. All right, but like the other ones, before we can solve this, we gotta get it set equal to 0. So I'm gonna move all of these over to the left side. So we've got 2x to the 4th minus 8x cubed plus x squared plus 13x equals 0. Now, what I do see is I can take an x out here. So then we're left with 2x cubed minus 8x squared plus x minus 13. Alright, so what we know for sure is x equals 0 by taking this one x out, setting it equal to 0. The rest of this, I don't see any combinations that work. And sometimes what's going to happen is you're not going to have any combinations that work, but we still know that we could have up to 4 answers here. So then what you can do is you can go grab a graphing calculator or something like Desmos, and you could graph in the original equation here. All right, and if you look, there's our original equation set equal to 0. Here's our equation here. So I graphed this out, and what this shows us is we have an answer of negative 1.08 at 0, at 1.87, and at 3.22. And those would be our 4 answers for this problem here. All right, this, I want you to do it the other ways though to get used to it, but if you can't come up with anything else, and especially when you see approximate solutions to a certain amount of decimal places, that's normally a good sign that most of them will not work. So while we could solve for one of these right away, you might have to go grab Desmos to be able to get the rest of them. All right, any questions? You can always get a hold of me on Schoology. And then, if that doesn't work, I'll be back on Monday to answer more questions.